Hey, my name is Alex Adelman. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Lolly. We've created the leading Bitcoin rewards app. We give people free Bitcoin when they shop online at over 1,000 merchants. We're here in Miami and having a great time, Bitcoin 2021. I got into Bitcoin in around like 2013, 2014, and I was building a company in the e-commerce space, and I brought Bitcoin to a lot of these merchants, and they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't have remittance networks set up. Consumers didn't want to actually pay with Bitcoin at the time because of the volatility. And so we said, well, we'll come back to it later. So we ended up getting acquired by Rakuten, the biggest cashback company in the US, many parts of the world. And they built an amazing cashback business. We got to learn all about cashback, rewards, everything. And being Bitcoiners, we thought this would be an amazing way to give free Bitcoin to people all over the world. So after we parted ways with them, we launched the business, and about 3 years ago, since then we've onboarded over 1,000 merchants. We have over 300,000 users. We just launched our mobile app, and we've been very successful with our Chrome extension, giving people the ability to buy on both desktop and mobile. So I was crashing on couches in New York, doing like the startup thing, and I ended up being at a bar, and I met this guy, and he had just learned about Bitcoin. And I think when someone like first learns about Bitcoin, they have like one or two reactions. It's either you have this aha moment or not, right? And he had that aha moment, and so we talked about Bitcoin for 3 hours straight, and I was just incredibly inspired. With my last company and with this company, our central mission is around democratizing commerce. And so with Bitcoin is democratizing commerce native to a currency. It's a currency that 4 billion people with an internet connection can own and trade and use. And so there's something incredibly beautiful about Bitcoin. And so it made perfect sense to me when he told me about it. I was like, this is the inevitable future. I've been building on the internet since I was 16. And anytime I'd ever try to move money around internationally, even domestically, I would get flagged. It would be like a big hassle. It would be expensive. And so there needed to be better money out there, and there needed to be internet native money. And so Bitcoin just made perfect sense, and I think it's starting to make sense for a lot of people now. We're seeing Bitcoin is up over 300% this year, over 800% over the last 2 years since the last Bitcoin conference before the pandemic was. And so I think everyone's just excited. It feels like the inevitable future is not so far away as it used to be. So people are excited, our team's excited, our users are excited, and some fun stats. I think when we first launched, Bitcoin was at around 4,000. Today it's around 40,000. So our users that earn $100, that's now $1,000. It's a significant amount of money that if you had been earning cash back would have only been $100. But because you're earning Bitcoin back, now our users are pumped that they had earned Bitcoin. So people are starting to ask questions about their money, and they're realizing that Bitcoin is just better money. When we first launched, it was only Bitcoiners. Bitcoiners were really excited to learn to get more Bitcoin. And now we've made this jump into people who have never had crypto before. And so that's, I think, clearly I love giving free Bitcoin to people who love Bitcoin, my friends that love Bitcoin. But the thing I'm actually really excited about is democratizing it and expanding it and bringing Bitcoin to the next 100 million people. So there's already a group of people that have adopted it, and I think we're in day one of the rest of the world adopting it. So the next phase is how do you get 100 million people to adopt it? And when Bitcoin first started, it was all miners, right? And so few people can mine cryptocurrency. You need high compute power computers. It's very expensive. And so the next phase was investing. Investing is a little bit more accessible, and so more people came in. Now what we've done is we've attached Bitcoin to shopping and earning, which is something that everybody does. So it immediately reaches a massive market, and a market that was untapped before. So if we can continue to do that, we're going to keep opening up Bitcoin to way more people. One interesting stat is, when we first launched, only 4% of women were crypto users. Our users, over 30% of our users are female, which is just showing how we're opening up Bitcoin to way more people in the space. And that's our whole mission, make Bitcoin more accessible to everybody and just make it easy and fun. So I'm really excited about Lightning Network. I think that what's going on with Lightning, like layer 2 solutions, it's making Bitcoin faster, better, easier to use. And I think a lot of the consumer applications that are emerging are going to be enabled with Lightning. Also really interested in stablecoin development. I think that stablecoins are going to usher in a more efficient medium of exchange. And right now, Bitcoin, a lot of even Bitcoiners don't want to necessarily pay with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is a store of value and the best store of value in the world. So as we bridge this gap, stablecoins are going to bring in this new world of digital money, and I think it's going to normalize Bitcoin being a savings technology and stablecoins being a spending technology, and then over time we'll see the world transition from stablecoins into Bitcoin through I think, inevitable hyper-Bitcoinization. I think people that are skeptical of the space everybody should do their own research. There's so much great information out there. I think Bitcoin.org is an incredible site that you can learn way more about Bitcoin. Our Twitter, we make it really fun to learn about Bitcoin. We do a lot of memes on Instagram and Twitter. We have a YouTube channel where we do a lot of Bitcoin education. I think it's just important to find the facts about Bitcoin. There's a lot of people that do not want Bitcoin to win because it's something that is against what they're going for or what they're optimizing for. And so I think people just need to do their research. There's a lot of fake information out there, and just see both sides.
Hi, I'm Richard Lee, and I'm with 4K.com. I thought this conference was fantastic. It's a way larger turnout than I expected, and what I noticed was a lot of relatively new people to the space, which is exciting to see. It was way bigger than I thought it would be, and we were the last company to secure a booth, and we thought, well, it'd be kind of empty. We would have to have some time to do our thing, but we realized it was just busy, busy, busy. Everyone is just getting more excited for crypto. What I also saw, too, that was interesting was an older demographic crowd, which I haven't really seen before. I attend these conferences multiple times per year all over the world, and it's generally 20 to 35-year-old people. I have seen a shift in the demographics, and that is, I think, a really good sign. It's inevitable before the traditional world moves in, right? So what we see right now is, the first step is basically right now we have very early institutional capital coming in. We're talking progressive family offices, a fund or two, a few institutions, a few very progressive endowments, right? It's inevitable before every single institutional fund generally holds in some form. There'll be ETFs. My mom's 401k IRA will hold some form of Bitcoin ETF. And the last people to buy that I'm excited for, which will happen maybe in 10 years, is when all of the central banks, or a large portion of central banks, will buy Bitcoin. I was just a huge nerd. At about 9 years old, I joined IRC, and it's got really deep in that community. And I was on the original Cypherpunks mailing list. So I found out Bitcoin pretty much before it launched or the day after it launched. And I honestly, in the earlier days, I thought it was kind of silly because when you use the wallet, it had to sync with the blockchain. So I was like, how is this the future of money when it took 3 hours or later it took a week to sync with the blockchain to actually use transactions? And so after that, I've been involved ever since. I did my CPU mining, GPU mining, FPGA mining, ASIC mining, investing, did a lot of things, built websites in this space, many websites, and then what I eventually did, took investing more seriously, invested in some of the earlier ICOs, started a venture fund in early mid-2017, just winding that down as we speak, that did many investments in the space, and then also launched a validator company. So we won Cosmos' Game of Stakes, we're a pretty large proof-of-stake validator, over $600 million under direct delegation, over $1 billion indirect delegation, and now here I am starting 4K. And 4K really is a problem that I saw about 4 years ago. I've been thinking about this problem for 4 years. So 4 years ago, I've been trying to invest in this problem, find a company to invest in this company to solve this problem. And the problem really is bringing physical assets on chain. And what everyone else wanted to do was to bring in real estate and stocks. And I'm thinking, guys, we're 20 to 35. We're not interested in a 5% yield token on real estate when we put that money in Compound or Aave or stocks. We want sneakers. We want trading cards. We want watches. We want Birkins. We want collectibles. We want these things. We don't want a real estate yield token, the boomer assets. That's boring. Our generation, like the younger generation, I'm 33, so a little older. I mean, they're into sneakers. They know about flipping sneakers. When I went to join those sneaker forums and sneaker Discord groups, they couldn't even do the transactions because they weren't 18 years old. They couldn't sign up for an account to actually do the transactions. That's the demographic that they're interested in. It's stuff that they're affiliated with or they understand, culture stuff. Dude, when you're 25, do you really know about real estate? Can you make a plausible investment into real estate or stocks? Like, generally no, and they're not that interested, right? What we see is there's stocks and then there's stonks, right? So people like buy Tesla, buy AMC, buy GME. Those are not generally based upon, totally different demographic than people who buy Procter & Gamble and the, IBMs of the world, right? So what we want to do is be that bridge between digital and physical. And so what I see is we're basically an NFT company. And so what I see in NFTs is three core things. One, digital art, which is the vast majority of the focus. The second category is metaverse. So we're talking Decentraland and other virtual worlds that are coming in the earlier stages, but are coming. And the third part, what the NFTs are the biggest application that's been underutilized and what we're tackling is representation. Digital representation of physical property. And that is what we're doing. So for example, what you do is you take an asset, a sneaker, a watch, wine's a little trickier, but you take one of these items, you send it to us. We are a storage company in the marketplace. So you send it to us, we authenticate it, we store it, we insure it, and then we issue you the NFT. And with that NFT, you can do whatever you want with that. You can interact with DeFi, you can collateralize and get a loan against it, you can sell it, you can give it to your friend, you can brag about it on your portfolio to your Tinder date, whatever you want to do it with, right? And when you want the physical item, you simply send us the NFT and we ship it to you. Now, why is this important? Why is this model important? I think it's so important because what we see is these middleman companies like eBay, arguably StockX, GOAT, and all Real, especially Real in these companies, Christie Sotheby's, take a really fat margin. We did the math. To buy something on eBay and sell something on eBay, you have to make 23% margin to break even. That middleman fee is simply a tax on the working class. Global tax on the working class. They are not actually decreasing the fees, they're all increasing the fees. I mean, like payments, if you think about it fundamentally, is just a database operation. Why are we paying 2.9%, 2.7% to these companies? It's insanity to me. And so when playing within those existing systems, the best versions of that would be something like StockX. But with crypto, it unlocks an entire ecosystem of tools where we can basically do to peer-to-peer markets as what DeFi is doing to the traditional banking industry, right? We can circumvent or play outside of the rules just a little bit, or play with different systems, or different set of rules, I should say. And I think that's really powerful. When we charge a 1% fee for transacting physical goods, when we can, if the NFT is on the platform, you can get it overnighted to you. So I buy the NFT, I send it to my cell, or I redeem it, I get it overnighted. I don't have to deal with like StockX, or honestly, before this conference, I try to buy sneakers. I don't know if anybody from StockX is watching this. I try to buy sneakers for 2 months. I am 0 in 14 to pass the authentication process. There's not a single sneaker at our booth because I couldn't get a single sneaker. It's ridiculous to me. I want it, like with us, you'll see a sneaker, that means it's authenticated, good to go. You buy it, you ship it to you overnight. I'm an influencer, I'm a celebrity. Why am I waiting 30 days, 60 days for these items? And so this is what 4K, it's a far better experience for buyers, a far better experience for sellers, a far better experience for all stakeholders involved in the ecosystem, where it's not just a one-sided transaction like eBay, they just milk you, or StockX just milk you. My big investment thesis is really three things. One, private transaction with multi-asset liquidity pools. Two, social tokens. Three, NFTs. If you look at everything around us, there's very few things that are fully fungible. That light, the camera, your shirt, this couch, this microphone. Very few are fully fungible because this has got a condition. It's very good condition, it's broken, it's whatever. So eventually what I see is almost everything in the world will probably exist in some or there should or can exist in NFT form. And that's powerful. Like we were talking about Zed-Run, the horse racing crypto game. We're like, well, what if we, NFT the real racing horse and brought it into the game, right? And then he could be able to interact and breed and like create new things. And then every year we do an annual review of the horse and we update its stats within the game, right? We NFT a real Michael Jordan rookie card. We bring that into NBA Top Shot, right? It's the hybridization of the two worlds, and that's the bridge that we're building. And that is a future where I can imagine a world where instead of Tinder, I roll into VR Tinder. I go in there and I have like an avatar, and like I have a watch, I have sneakers, I have pants, and they're all NFTs. you say you make 150K a year, you better have you might want to show off and flex a little bit in these places, right? I was talking, for example, with somebody that does sculptures. She's like, hey, I got this big problem. I have all these people that love to buy my sculptures, but they can only buy one or maybe two because they're about 5,000 pounds a piece. How do I get them, so they want to speculate or buy them, but they can't. And now we solve that problem. She sends them to us. We shoot NFT to her, people that want to her. She sells them. Now they can you can hold 10,000 of these sculptures, but not actually hold any of the physical assets. Cars, I gotta have 100 Ferraris. I'm not having to deal storage, shipping, customs, tax, chargebacks, fraudulent wire, all of that. This type of marketplace, peer-to-peer future, this type of marketplace is the future. And the last part is that we or someone else should really bring down transaction fees significantly, because what I anticipate in 2 to 3 years is that the lifetime transaction cost per user will be less than $1. When I move $1 billion, it will cost me less than $1 in transaction fees in the future. And that'll fundamentally change all forms of markets, especially the peer-to-peer markets.
I think it's been incredible to be out of hibernation. The people, I've never seen a conference like it. People now, more than ever before, are interested. Even at the gym, people are talking about crypto, the average person, right? So when you see it on the front of the newspaper, then it's there. So I think a lot of people are coming just to understand the next phase of life and humanity and digitizing that value. So I think just talking to people that have been in the space a long time to see old friends, but then understand new friends and seeing them and interacting with them, it's very interesting. The journey started back in 2017, 2018 for me. So I didn't come in early at all, really, in comparison. So I was mainly just the blockchain technology, architecture and structure of supply chain track and trace. So in China, with Guoyao, Sinopharm is the largest pharmaceutical supply chain in China. So just using that in IoT sense with the sensors, and being able to sense the ginseng in the ground, if it's actually legitimate ginseng, in the Chinese traditional medicine, because 70% of that is fake. And so for the global market, it's a problem. So as China is digitizing its currency, connecting to the central bank, it's connecting different marketplaces, commodities, real estate, healthcare, et cetera, and that's connected, so it's all connected. So that's really where I was introduced to more of a global outlook on basically digitizing value and liquidating value through the eyes and lens of the Chinese. And they've done it so well, like Alibaba, a credit score, and the little guys that didn't have a credit score before, and them giving that and those loans, and it's amazing, micro lending, et cetera. And those financial products are basically what led to where we are today, in that DeFi space. So it's been amazing to see how China has proven a lot of what we're going to see in the next 10 years for stable coins within digital currencies, within governments issuing it from their central bank. It's going to be amazing to see what actually China already proved. And so that's just learning from China. Anything good taken to the extreme can be bad. So I think a balance of centralized and decentralized is needed. So understanding that pendulum of understanding and that balance is always needed. So there's always an insight year to year, day to day, month to month, knowing that balance is going to be key, whether you're an individual, whether you're a company, whether you're a government, or an IGO, intergovernment organization like an IMF. So I think that balance is needed, and it's on a case-by-case basis. It's interesting, a friend, basically Diego, started RSK, the first Bitcoin, smart contracts on Bitcoin. And he's now being introduced as the 12th member of the Crypto Hall of Fame. And so he just introduced basically Argentina, South America, Central America. It's amazing to see what he did early on in the space, and then now what he's doing DeFi and really hedging against Bitcoin, building ecosystems on it. And so he's an OG in the space, of course, but I just talking with him lately, and then what MobileCoin is doing, Joshua, and MobileCoin, what they're doing with, not Telegram, Signal. Signal, basically integrating payments natively to Signal. So things like that, and there's some of our partners. So basically having those network effects within those tens of millions of people, and then for our model, being able to have our members and their thousands of employees use that for network effects within their ecosystem and use those utilities similar to a WeChat or Alipay, having to be able to book your insurance or micro lending or payments or anything within that ecosystem. So the more utility, the more sticky and the more network effects. But we call it inter-network effects, financial inter-network. So it's more of, instead of a double-sided marketplace, it's more of a quadratic funding, so a quadratic marketplace. Now I would say for anyone out there listening to this, look to China as the model, Alibaba, WeChat as the two main key drivers for network effects and connecting the government to utility and understanding how they all connect. I think those are the two main things that you could almost copy verbatim, and what they're already connecting and digitizing the currency to the digital renminbi. They're by far and away, whenever they fully launch, they've been in beta for 5 years really on it. I think that that's going to be the key driver to the future of understanding what in 10 years is going to look like. That's basically what Libra tried to do, they will be doing, and they are doing. So someone like Binance, for example, they're amazing, and we're even discussing things, right? So I think that they do amazing at everything, except for their customer service for finance is really hard, right? It's really hard to get a US level customer service, like an Amazon level, understanding, educating the person, helping them hold their hands basically and babysit them. Onboarding to crypto is harder than most. And if you already have a hard time in finance, like most banks don't do very well in customer service. So think of crypto as like 10x that, right? So for governments that are onboarding digital currency, I think that we're able to use, for example, in the traditional crypto space, different ways to onboard and educate and work with customer service, like with Binance. So being able to use that as a use case to then help use that proof of concept for other governments to say, this is going to be needed. This is a small scale version of what's going to happen when they have to onboard the digital dollar, right? And so for our membership as the ETF, those members and employees and customers, basically we're being the liaison and middleman between the government and the customer. And our members, which is the publicly traded companies, are onboarding them and basically the swap and the off-ramp and the on-ramp between the fiat and the digital dollar. And because that utility, so if Amazon or Amex basically swapped their basically digital currency for fiat, let's say 2 to 1. Let's say Biden says, I'll double your money, right? So that's basically helping with that liaison of educating and the customer service. It's going to be a huge market in the next 10 years as all digital value goes online. You know, the grandfather that didn't understand and doesn't understand, you'll have to basically create what we call an ecosystem, right? An ETF ecosystem. Everyone has their own ecosystem. Tom Cruise has an ecosystem. Company has an ecosystem. You know, a government has an ecosystem. And basically everyone is their own, basically ETF as we call it. And so when you have that family, in a sense, that brotherhood, that grandfather, when he sees value and he digitizes value, he can see and you can use different parallels to his family, like his son, or, you know, talking about describing a node. Maybe you don't go into describing a node, for example, but you can parallel things to how you interact with the value of your family and how they interact with the value of exchanging value. So maybe the value isn't just money. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's physical energy and non-physical energy. Maybe it's influence, right? Because if everyone's a millionaire, then you don't quantify and then value money as much as maybe time, right? So when you're tokenizing everything in all forms of value, now the space is open and now he can see value in a different way, right? We don't want to overwhelm him with technical things, but we just see what he's excited about. What motivates him as an individual? What motivates him as a person that has an ecosystem, a family? He's a father, he's a son, you know. How does he engage into his community, you know? So that's basically those small things of helping then connect to him as an employee or an investor or a customer, et cetera. Those are the network effects that basically the government, those are the biggest hurdles for the government to onboard the digital value that I think will be key for us to be a liaison and kind of a middleman for our member companies in the ETF to basically be that swap. I always say, like, even in China, if you can't beat them, join them. It's like I'm embracing, things. You embrace life, you embrace partners, you embrace the world, and you find value and good in everything, right? So if you have that open mindset of understanding, hey, let's all work together, let's all find value together, how do we do this? If you're open-minded, even if you love horses and you're a horse fanatic and you didn't want to enjoy the Model T, maybe you still have the horse. Maybe you don't have to abandon your horse, right? And you can still have your horse and buggy, but then you can adapt and say, let me try this. Let me be open to taking a ride, And that slowly but surely, as you adapt more and more families, more brotherhoods, more ecosystems become adapted to this utility, then yeah, grandpa can still be in his horse and buggy, but that doesn't mean he can't once in a while also ride in the car with his son, So that's basically having that balance. Again, anything good taken to the extreme can be bad. So I think we need a slow process. We need a transition, but we need an education where it starts now though. Even if it takes 10 years, we need to start educating now. We need to have that process now. And I think that process is being iterated. I mean, every country in the world is in beta on their version of the digital dollar, right? So now it's just helping. In the same way they're beta on the technology and the network effects and the tokenomics behind the finance central banking system, they also need to be testing customer service and education with the customers and how that works.